I watched the Venom Saga, the first ever Venom film, and to be honest, it's the most nonsensical, insane thing I've ever watched. You gotta see it to believe it. So, the Venom Saga is a collection of 5 different episodes from the 1990 Spider-Man animated series, which were all compiled together to create a complete arc for Venom, which might not end in the way you expect it to. It gets magical. Literally. But don't worry, we build up to that. To start on some familiar ground, let's start with the black suit arc we all know and love. Sure, this version includes Kingpin, Rhino, and Shocker, but the skeleton is still intact. We start this escapade in the void of space. We then pan over to this random asteroid, and this astronaut scouring said asteroid. The astronaut finds this strange rock. It looks like obsidian, but it's almost like the rock's bleeding. But it's not bleeding. It's actually just Venom from the comics. The whole asteroid begins to rumble and shake. The astronaut escapes just in time. But now, with a stowaway, Venom from the comics starts to crawl up this guy's leg, meaning that he can no longer focus on flying the ship. He's supposed to land in the airport for some reason, but he misses that, and instead heads right for a bridge in New York. I'm not from there, I don't know what it's called. While all this is happening, it's being televised to the nation, meaning Jameson is afraid his son will die. Yeah, the astronaut is Jameson's son, by the way, if you didn't know. Kingpin now knows he has an opportunity to get this rock that everyone's talking about, and Spider-Man knows to swing in and save the day. So everyone gets into motion. Jameson gets a helicopter to that bridge that is in New York. Kingpin calls the Rhino to get the random rock, and the Rhino agrees, because honestly, it doesn't look like he has much going on. I think my boy was literally waiting by the phone for something to do. Kind of sad to watch. And Spider-Man jumps out the window and swings towards the bridge. We cut to the bridge and see that Eddie Brock is waiting in the traffic. He's listening to the radio, so he knows everything that's going on and plans to snap a few photos to try and get his old job back. Yeah, he's already been fired from the Bugle in this show. I didn't see that either, but context gives me clues. He also hates Peter Parker. I know that also from my literacy media abilities.
That punk Parker can click one of these, so can I.
God, I'm smart. Amen. Speaking of amen, this man smashes the shuttle onto the bridge now. Spider-Man shows up and is like, yo, who gave you your spaceship license? A circus animal? Nice one, Spider-Man. But speaking of a circus animal, boom! Rhino's already here. Ow! Rhino's literally about to kill Spider-Man, but then Kingpin says, no, don't do that, idiot. Just bring me the damned rock. On the Rhino's way out, Eddie Brock snaps a few photos. He then turns to his right and sees Spider-Man saving the 2 astronauts. Spider-Man, proud of himself, is like, you've done it again, Spider-Man. You saved JJJ's son, and now he can never be mad at you ever again. But then he hears something behind him from the spaceship. He crawls back inside. As he's looking around, the spaceship begins to tip and fall into the Hudson, I think? Spider-Man falls down with it, but then escapes the scene. J. Jonah Jameson finally lands in his helicopter and goes to check on his clearly distressed son. All he can get out is black, like tar, the bridge, Spider-Man, and then falls unconscious. Jameson's like, Spider-Man, what's he got to do with this? Eddie Brock then approaches him and says, Jameson, I got some photos of Spider-Man stealing something from the shuttle. If you just give me my job back, I'll totally give them to you. Jameson's like, yes, I will hire you back. I hate Spider-Man, but possibly more now? Spider-Man crawls out of the water but notices some black goop on his costume. He's like, great, river sludge. I'm gonna have to clean this now. God damn it, I'm poor! But never mind that, I have to track down the Rhino. Good thing I put this tracking device on him, but it doesn't work. The tracking device doesn't even work. So Spider-Man's like, god damn it, he must have went somewhere where the walls are slightly thicker than they usually are. And not to mention, I'm still poor. God damn it! We then cut to Kingpin and this guy with a mullet who is scientific, I guess. Rhino gives over the rock from the spaceship and the mullet guy's like, yes! I can't wait to run experiments on this rock. It's potentially the most powerful nuclear fuel in the world. Kingpin's like, no! I've got a buyer lined up already. You will not be touching this rock, you stupid asshole. Peter then returns home to Aunt May, who is watching the television in a 4:3 aspect ratio because of the time period. And then happens something I really like. Jameson, obviously super angered because of how emotionally attached he is to this situation, offers $1 million to anyone who captures Spider-Man because he swears Spider-Man has something to do with this situation after hearing what Brock had to say. I like this because, again, Jameson is obviously very emotionally involved in this situation, and then creates a scenario where while Spider-Man is trying to deal with the black suit, switching his personality, making him more abrasive and emotional, the whole city hates him and is trying to take him down. I think that's just a really cool setting for a symbiote story. And that happens right away with this from Aunt May.
Now there's nowhere Spider-Man can run. At last he'll get what he deserves.
Thanks, Aunt May. I needed that.
What the hell? She sucks in this. I hate her. Peter then goes to bed before this insane sequence starts. saying, yo, what the hell? Spider-Man 3 must have taken inspiration from the show. Like, it's the exact same shot. Not to mention, the original symbiote suit for the movie looked exactly like this one. Anyways, two guys in a helicopter see Spider-Man and try and hunt him down. This then leads into Spider-Man defending himself against the city, where you see him harming innocent people for the first time and also learning the things his new suit can do. Spider-Man escapes and heads to college the next day, where you see him kind of speedrun the whole symbiote arc. This girl notices Peter in his new Italian suit, which is really just the symbiote, and is like, Peter, you look different. You seem different. Peter's like, you don't know how different, and gets all up in her personal space like this, which is displaying his newfound confidence. This girl's super into this until Flash walks up and is like, yo, Peter, you trying to hit on my girl? And the girl's like, yo, girl, what the hell are you talking about? And then Peter does the whole, yeah, back off, Thompson. And then Flash is like, yo, look who developed a backbone. And starts shoving Peter, but then Peter shoves back and is like, I'm not dealing with your no good nonsense anymore, Flash Thompson. And the girl's like, stop it, Peter. And then she's like, you know something, Peter? I have noticed you're different. You scare me now. So yeah, Peter went from confident and charismatic to a straight up narcissist bully over the course of like a minute. I think it probably should have taken a little longer than that. The symbiote story needs time to breathe. Peter should start out hyped that this suit is massively improving his life as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. But then over the course of weeks or months, he starts to become more unstable, leading to ruined relationships. This is done really well in Spectacular Spider-Man, but in this show, everything is so rushed. Not just with the story, but literally everything from vocal performances to the editing. So yeah, it's not entirely surprising that they would do it this way. And it's also something they continue to do for the rest of the film. So more insanity is to come at an even higher degree. Anyways, back to the episode. Aunt May gets what she deserves.
I'm not gonna listen to any more of this.
Spider-Man's tracker then goes off, leading him back to the Rhino, who's stealing something more for Kingpin. They then engage in combat, with Spider-Man having the serious upper hand. Like seriously, Spider-Man starts to torture the Rhino, which is kind of messed up. But what's more messed up than that is Spider-Man literally tries to kill the Rhino, but then at the last second realizes what he's doing and stops himself. He then flees the scene. Spider-Man starts to think to himself how this could have happened. How could he have almost done something so reckless? He looks at himself through a reflection and sees something sinister.
What was that? What's happening to me?
Okay, next episode starts and Spider-Man's forgotten basically all his concerns. And that happens a lot during the symbiote arc. Could be like, whoa, what's gotten into me? And then investigate that thought no further and do some other heinous crime. And then 2 seconds later be like, whoa, I'm feeling weird lately. But yeah, anyways, the episode starts with Spider-Man fighting these randos who want the reward. But you see what these yahoos don't get is the Black Spider-Man is unbeatable. But then Spider-Man becomes extremely close to being beat because of sonic pulses, the symbiote's only weakness. Spider-Man escapes these yahoos, goes and yells at Eddie and JJ for lying about him stealing the rock that Kingpin currently has, but then he gets a little too heated, so he leaves.
What is happening with me?
Spider-Man then goes to ask Dr. Connors to help him analyze the suit. The doc comes to the conclusion that this thing is alive and is clearly evil and wants to take over your personality. Spider-Man is like, okay, cool, but I actually still need it, and then jumps out a window. We then cut back to JJ watching over his son, the astronaut, who happens to mumble in his sleep. Oh man, Spider-Man didn't steal the rock actually, and a guy in a rhino suit did. Jameson's like, what?
You lied to me!
And fires Eddie for lying to him. J. Jonah Jameson then retracts the 1 million reward for capturing Spider-Man, saying to the public that Eddie Brock actually lied to him and Spider-Man is not to blame for anything. Kingpin just so happens to be watching this broadcast and sends the Shocker to go get Eddie Brock to make sure that he has no evidence against him. We cut to Eddie Brock walking home from the Bugle, defeated and kinda petty.
Spider-Man, you cost me my job, my reputation, my health.
And during his walk home, the Shocker appears. Shocker threatens to kill Eddie Brock if he doesn't hand over the photos from the crash site. But before this can escalate any further, Spider-Man swings in. But then he dies. Shocker's pretty proud of himself. He's like feeling himself up. He's like, yeah, I just killed Spider-Man. I guess I'll go back to base. I lost Eddie, but I did kill Spider-Man, so that's pretty cool. And then not a second later, yeah, Spider-Man, he's alive! And he yells this.
How about I follow you instead?
I'm thinking quiet down, Spider-Man. Shocker left literally a second ago, but it's fine. He doesn't hear him. So yeah, Spider-Man follows the Shocker back to home base and steals the strange rock. And, okay, here's where things start to get insane again. This show clearly wants to end up somewhere, so a lot of plot needs to happen within a short period of time to get to that spot in the story. So let me just list it all off for you right now. Kingpin's like, where's the rock? We gotta sell it now. Shocker and Mullet Man are like, Spider-Man lost it, big man. Sorry. Kingpin's like, ah, Jesus, okay, kidnap the astronaut. Shocker goes to do that. Shocker then has to go to JJJ to tell him that they kidnapped his son. JJ says something to the effect of, give him back. Shocker's like, no. So then Jameson has to get on TV, ask for Spider-Man's help, and to meet him at a certain location. Peter's like, I hate this guy, but I guess I should. Spider-Man then meets up with Jameson at a castle or church, whatever this is. Also, Eddie Brock is following them, so he's just here too, but they don't know it yet. They walk into the castle/church and see Mullet Man. Mullet Man's like, give over the strange rock. Spider-Man's like, we want to see John first, the astronaut. And here he is. So that's pretty good. Jameson then wheels his son, the astronaut, out of the church/castle. So Spider-Man's like, okay, I guess we're done here. Then the Shocker steps out from behind a pillar and is like, not quite. And then Spider-Man's like,
A double cross? Big surprise.
so yeah, Jameson's son, the astronaut, got kidnapped and then delivered back safely in less than 2 minutes. But good news is, now we have about 6 minutes for an action scene. So that's sick. Now we got Spider-Man, Shocker, Mullet Man, and Eddie all in this church/castle, and they're gonna fight, and fight they do. Spider-Man unleashes a new level of insanity that you've only seen in the memes, and it doesn't disappoint. The Spider-Man voice actor, Christopher Daniel Barnes, does a fantastic job at playing Spider-Man. He's got a youthful energy, but my man was born to play symbiote Spider-Man. The showrunner asked for Sinister. Christopher Daniel Barnes delivered the devil.
You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
I also like the spit a ton. Shocker and Spider-Man are throwing back Shocker-based puns. When Spider-Man says double cross, big surprise. Shocker immediately responds with, if you think that's a surprise, you're in for a real shock. And then Spider-Man just hits him with,
I'm gonna tear you limb from limb!
and then Shocker's just like,
Oh, I'm all shook up.
like, bro, you did not level him up at all with that one. Spider-Man is clearly done with the puns and straight up wants to kill the Shocker, but Shocker is still stuck in his old ways. He just loves puns. He can't help himself. They fight and eventually end up with Spider-Man holding the Shocker over the edge of a tall tower. Spider-Man threatens to drop him, and eventually the suit makes him do it. Peter's like, what have I done? And then shoots a web towards the Shocker, saving him at the last second. He couldn't do it with Gwen, but the Shocker, he does it easily. At that moment, Spider-Man's like, whoa, what? The suit's taking control. I gotta get this off. Starts pulling it, but it's not working. But then remembers back to the Yahoos at the start of this episode. He needs a sonic pulse, but where's he gonna get that? Oh, there's a bell. There's a huge bell right there. That's convenient. The bell starts to ring loudly. Spider-Man walks closer and closer towards the bell, and the suit peels from him while he does this. Once it's completely detached, the symbiote bleeds through the cracks in the floor, falling onto Eddie Brock, who hangs below. Yeah, by the way, Eddie tried to attack Spider-Man earlier while he had no powers. It was a dumb play for sure, but he got wrapped up in a web, and that's why he's under here. Spider-Man escapes. Eddie's now Venom. And then we cut back to Kingpin. Remember these guys? The Mullet Man's like, here, Kingpin, I have the rock. Kingpin's like to the buyers, here it is, fellas. It's all yours. Give us the money. But the buyers are like,
Man, at first you need to prove to us again that this is the real stuff.
they take the rock to the lab to see if it still has its powers. And it doesn't. Apparently, the rock only has radioactive powers for a couple days. Kingpin's like, why didn't you tell me this before? And then the Mullet Man's like, you wouldn't let me research it, idiot. And that's literally it. That's the end of this plotline. It doesn't show up in any more of the episodes. I don't know. I guess this thing was just a plot device to get Jameson to hate Spider-Man and think he's a criminal. But also serve as a reason for John to get kidnapped to lead them to a church. I don't know. I feel like there was probably a better way to do this, but here we are. But to be honest, I'm glad that Kingpin and this rock is out of here, because now we can just focus on Spider-Man versus Venom. We open on Eddie Brock working out, pumping iron, sweating, fueled by his hatred for Spider-Man. We get a flashback to earlier in the movie where he sneezes and says,
It cost me my health.
yeah, they use this as an actual narrative reason for him hating Spider-Man. It's unreasonable hatred, but he still hates him nonetheless. Eddie Brock finishes his reps, his sets, as they say in the gym, and he walks over to his wall, sees a newspaper clipping of Spider-Man, and says, we're a poison to you now, Spider-Man. We're Venom. Oh my god, I've screamed way too much. My voice hurts so bad. I'm gonna start sounding like Venom. I think it's really funny that Eddie Brock sat down and thought of his supervillain name, but it is a cartoon, so it is important, and everyone does it. Venom's a pretty good one. Good job, Eddie. We then cut to Spider-Man swinging through New York. He monologues to himself about how glad he is to be in his old set of clothes. As he's saying this, he sees the Rhino and Shocker. and fights them. Spider-Man struggling a bit with the two villains, but just in the nick of time, Venom shows up. What the hell? He's saving Spider-Man? Oh, no, not at all. He does the whole Spider-Man's mind thing. Spider-Man crawls out from underneath some rubble and sees Eddie Brock. He's like, Eddie Brock, what are you doing here? Eddie Brock is like, oh, hey, Spider-Man, or do you mind if we call you Peter Parker? Spider-Man's like, what? How do you know? And then Eddie reveals himself to be Venom. And then they fight. They then pause. Venom talks about his backstory. We get this 3D rendering of space. I think the most accurate I've ever seen. NASA doesn't hold a torch to this. This is insane. But afterwards, Venom escapes. To try find Venom, Spider-Man goes to Eddie Brock's old apartment. Inside, he finds a delivery slip saying the type of gym equipment he orders. He then calls the gym equipment company, says he's Eddie Brock, and wants to know where he's redirected his new gym equipment, which then leads him to his new apartment. Actually, incredibly good detective work, and very straightforward. But personally, I would have given up during this process because Spider-Man sees this. Oh my god. We cut to Peter Parker just walking down the street one day, but then Venom, he's just right there. Venom is just being a brat, to be honest. He's like, I'm gonna tell Jameson that you're Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like, no, don't. Spider-Man also says, the more you hate me, the more the symbiote can control you. Then Venom is like, we don't hate you, we're your biggest fan. And then he throws a fan at him. But that's not really important. What is important is that Venom manages to restrain Spider-Man and hang him over the Daily Bugle. While he does this, he rips Spider-Man's mask off. A whole crowd watches beneath them, trying to see who Spider-Man is. And this bit really annoys me. Jameson, who is in the crowd, walks over to a literal cameraman, steals his camera off of him, and tries to zoom in on Spider-Man's face. But he doesn't know how to use a camera.
Quick, somebody, what do I do to make this thing zoom in?
I wonder who would know how to use a camera. The cameraman you just stole the camera from! Oh my god, I'm going Venom mode. I can't speak. Peter has to be dangling off that building for a literal minute, and Jameson just can't get the focus right. He's got him in perfect frame. The composition is astounding, but the focus, it needs work. Anyways, of course, at the last second, Spider-Man grabs something out of a building, cuts the webs, and swings away. Peter then meets MJ at a show that he was meant to see with her that night, but guess who's also there? Eddie Brock. Peter shoves Eddie out of the way, grabs Mary Jane, and takes her away from the show. He's like, what the hell, asshole? I wanted to see that. Peter's like, no, Eddie's a weirdo. We have to go. Looks back and it's just Venom walking down the street. I hate that. He looks like the Purple Man from Five Nights at Freddy's. Peter manages to get MJ home, and the whole time she's like, Peter, what's happening? What's going on? And he's like, MJ, do you trust me? MJ's like, yeah. So then Peter's like, okay, so don't ask me any questions and keep quiet.
Just do as I say, and don't ask me any questions.
Okay.
Which feels like a dysfunctional relationship, but what do I know? Peter clearly scored with MJ, so I have nothing to say. Problem is, Venom obviously knows where Peter lives, so he just goes there, rings the doorbell, chats up Aunt May, and lures Peter out to fight him. They go back and forth a little bit, but then Eddie tries to drop a tree on Peter's home. He's gone too far this time. That's messed up. Peter realizes Venom's never gonna stop torturing him, so he has to fight back. And he thinks he knows how. Remember how Peter found out Eddie's new address? Well, he decorated it with news clippings reporting that Eddie Brock got fired from the Daily Bugle. Spider-Man didn't really need to do this, but it was a hilarious prank, and I respect it immensely. Spider-Man then lures Venom out of his home and to a space station. But not before a pretty cool chase sequence, which involves trucks, trains, and automobiles. Here is an image of Venom in a truck. I gotta say, a space station is a pretty cool action set piece for a Spider-Man and Venom encounter. I wouldn't say this show used the location to its maximum capabilities, but hey, an idea for the movies, I guess. Anyway, Spider-Man runs towards the rocket ship, which is named after John Jameson's heroic landing? I don't know. He crashed into a bridge, then climbs up the tower supporting the rocket ship, and Venom follows. Once they get to the top, the engines start, which are loud enough to rip the symbiote off Eddie's back. We get some pretty cool images of this happening. And then Spider-Man ties up the symbiote and sticks it towards the rocket ship, banishing it to the depths of space once more. We cut back to Peter Parker at his home with MJ around his arm. She says, Peter, are you even listening to me? He's like, no, I was looking at the stars. And that's it. For now, I guess you could say we start this episode off with a bang.
Stay away from me, or...
We got a suicide bomber in Spider-Man 1990. The show can't say kill, they say destroyed, but we still got a suicide bomber that's gonna blow up an entire block. Of course, this doesn't happen. Spider-Man saves the day, as usual, by throwing it really far. Smart man. Smart Spider-Man. We then cut to two lovers watching the stars peacefully. And an asteroid coming right for them! Get down! Yeah, so, these guys get infected by Venom. He's back, everybody. We then cut back to Spider-Man, who's overlooking Cassidy's arrest. Oh yeah, he's the suicide bomber, by the way. It's Cassidy something. Cletus Cassidy, I looked it up. But then, out of nowhere, Madam Web! She has an entirely new reputation after the movie came out. I now disrespect you and think you're a joke. But nonetheless, she appears out of nowhere, which is insane, and warns Spider-Man that a great evil is coming. And to keep his friends close, but his enemies closer. Spider-Man's like, wait, what does that mean? But she doesn't tell him. She's Madam Web. She hasn't got the greatest vocabulary. So Spider-Man goes on with his day. We then cut to Eddie in prison, who goes over his tragic backstory. He's super convinced Venom will return, which is insane because it got blasted off into space on a rocket. It could be light years away, but he still thinks it's gonna come back. Obviously, he's right because this is a cartoon, but like, he doesn't know that. Anyways, turns out he's talking to a therapist the whole time. She looks like this. That's important. The therapist says, no, Eddie, there's no Venom. You're being weird and psychotic. I think the real reason you're acting this way is because Spider-Man lost you your job. And he's like, huh, not just my job. He also lost me my apartment, my health. Yeah, he's still hanging on to that. It's barely an inconvenience, but he keeps on bringing it up. He's perfectly fine now. Like, he didn't even lose his health. He temporarily didn't have his health. It wasn't even for that long. He sneezed one time. Spider-Man didn't even have anything to do with that. He sneezed one time. Bless you. The therapist clearly had enough of this because she leaves. And Eddie's like, no, can't you stay? Ashley, I love you. He didn't say the last part, but you can tell. But as she's leaving, Cletus Cassidy is brought into the jail cell next to Eddie's. He starts flirting with her. I think it's going pretty well.
Don't I get a goodbye kiss? Or are you afraid I'm gonna bite?
But Eddie's self-conscious, so he's like,
Hey, you! Shut up!
So then Cletus is like, hey man, I could eat you for breakfast. So then Eddie's like, oh yeah, well I'd give you indigestion. So Eddie's on top of his game right now. We then cut to a magic dungeon. Yes, you heard me right, a magic dungeon. Where we see Dormammu and Baron Mordo from the Doctor Strange films. Dormammu wants to get out of this glass crystal and into the real world. But to do that, he needs Venom for some reason. So he gets Baron Mordo to go talk to Eddie to recruit him as part of the Dormammu crew. Eddie's like, yeah, geez, alright. He's hesitant, but he agrees. Mordo tells Dormammu that Eddie agreed to help. Dormammu's like, fantastic job. Now, we just have to rob Stark Enterprises for the interdimensional probe, which exists there. Cut to Stark Enterprises, where we see Peter Parker sit down for a demonstration on the interdimensional probe. Dr. Connors is also there. He's like, Peter, look, that's Arden Broom. Peter looks back and sees just Baron Mordo. It's just Baron Mordo. He knows it. We know it. It's him. Dr. Connors says his electronics company is a supplier to Stark Industries, so I don't know why he can't just steal the interdimensional probe. I don't know why they're getting Venom to do this, but they are. We see Tony Stark on the projector. He's like, hello everybody, we're gonna transport something in New York where you all are to over here in Los Angeles, where I am. But before this, we cut back to Eddie. A lady walks in. Hey, isn't that the same one from the date night earlier in the episode that got hit by the asteroid with the symbiote? It is. It grabs onto Eddie, and now Venom is back. Yay! This truly is a Venom Saga. Before Venom breaks out, he shows his therapist that he's not crazy, and Venom does in fact exist. I don't know how there wasn't proof of this earlier. I guess he stayed somewhat undercover, but what about that huge crowd that was trying to get focus of Spider-Man when his mask was off? No one saw him then? I guess not, but yeah, no one believed him, but now they do. So then, Venom heads to Dormammu. Once he's there, Venom's like, Dormammu, how did you make us whole again? And Dormammu's like, I'm so glad you asked. Since my boy Baron Mordo is an electronics company supplier to Stark Enterprises, he broke into the company, hacked into the mainframe, and redirected the rocket that had the symbiote attached back to Earth. He then got that couple infected, mind-controlled them, and sent them straight to you, Eddie. But I'm still sitting here like, well then why didn't Baron Mordo just steal the probe to begin with? I don't know why they went through all of this. He was literally in the same building with no one around. So Venom asked, okay, cool, so what do you want from us in return? Dormammu's like, yeah, steal the interdimensional probe. Venom's like, yeah. We then cut back to Stark Enterprises with Peter watching the demonstration. It's going well, it's going well. Bah! Dad! Oh god, explosion! I don't know why the probe exploded. I think Venom's literally still outside. He hasn't done anything yet. So I guess two things are wrong. This thing doesn't even work, but also Venom's here. We see Venom outside fighting the army. They've already got tanks and soldiers here, but they're shooting pink laser beams because this show's for kids. Forget about the suicide bomber. Venom eventually makes his way inside and sees Spider-Man and War Machine. They start fighting. Baron Mordo is still here watching the whole thing unfold. Instead of helping Venom, he thinks, geez, nah, this isn't going too well. Maybe we should do something about this. So yeah, instead of helping, he transports himself himself back to the prison. This guy can hypnotize people, by the way. Asks Cletus Cassidy if he's interested in this whole ordeal. Cletus is like, absolutely, I'm a psychopath. I'm exactly what you need. I'll pretty much do anything your magic boss wants. And so Baron Mordo has the guy from the date come in and hand over his symbiote to Cletus Cassidy. So now, Carnage is born. Venom's like, who are you? Sounding like genuinely confused.
Who are you?
Carnage is like, we're your offspring. Venom is like, ah, yes. We recall replicating. And does this face, which is incredibly funny. But it's at this point, Venom becomes even more self-conscious than he already was. He's like, wait, if they sent you, didn't Dormammu trust me?
Why did Dormammu send you? Didn't he trust us?
And while he's coming to terms with that revelation, the therapist is here. The one he's super into.
Ashley.
Oh my god, you can just tell he wants her so bad. I've never heard Venom sound so gentle. Carnage is like, you're just a sentimental old fool, Dad. He calls him Dad for some reason. And then he explodes something. Venom's like, no! So, I think Carnage has crossed a line in Venom's mind now. While they're all recovering, Carnage steals the interdimensional probe. Venom's watching over Ashley and he's like, are you gonna be alright? He's so emotional now. Ashley's like, Venom, or Eddie, probably. Eddie, can I see your face? And he peels his mask back and he's so pissed. She's like, Eddie, are you gonna fight for justice or are you gonna still be Venom and bad? They wrote it better than that. But luckily at the last second, Baron Mordo appears and is like, you guys gotta stop squabbling and just bring the interdimensional probe back to Dormammu. They're like, fine, and they go. Ashley's like, no! But this doesn't cause anything, she's just upset. Then JJ walks in, he's like, finally, I can get Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man's unconscious right now from the explosion. He tries to peel his mask back, but War Machine just doesn't let him. That's it. That's all that happens. I feel like every time if they're just a little bit faster with it, they could do it. Spider-Man says thanks, but then War Machine just dies. We cut to the magic dungeon where Venom and Carnage just have delivered the interdimensional probe. Venom's like, now that that's done, let's get back to business. They start fighting. They hate each other. Carnage keeps on hitting on Ashley. It's really getting on his nerves. Dormammu's like, guys, stop fighting. I got something to say. I can't escape this dimension unless an equal amount of life force replaces me here. So please go and get that, please. Venom's like, no shot. I'm so done with this. I'm leaving. He leaves. We then cut to Carnage just stealing people's life forces. He's sucking their souls. I don't know how he's doing it. He's glowing blue now. He's just touching them with his spider symbiote webs, and he's getting their life force. Nothing about this makes sense. I thought I missed something the first time I watched this, but I didn't. He's just magic now. Spider-Man eventually finds him doing this and tries to stop him. Spider-Man basically talking to the audience says,
I know that loud sound or intense heat can stop a symbiote, but that's no help to me right now.
And I'm all, Spider-Man, if you knew you were fighting the symbiotes, why didn't you grab a device that would provide either one of those things? But he doesn't. He gets knocked out by Carnage. He tries to suck his life force, but he can't. Like some kind of video game character, he can only absorb so much before his, like, I don't know, he's full? He gets full. I don't know how. Baron Mordo says he's full, so he's full. We move on. His exact line was, Carnage, your body can only hold so much life force. Come back so that you can be drained.
Come back so that you can be drained.
This is a kid's show. We then cut to the Daily Bugle. We've got Tony Stark fighting with J. Jonah Jameson about the Venom Carnage people for some reason. Ashley is also there for some reason. And Peter is taking photos of them for some reason. I don't know why any of this is happening. But what does matter is Venom is now here and attacks Peter Parker because he hates him, remember? Ashley says, Eddie, no! Again, Jesus. Allowing Peter enough time to turn into Spider-Man. They then fight for a little bit, all while Ashley's going, Eddie, you gotta fight the symbiote. It's taking over your mind, it's making you super violent. Then Iron Man shows up, he starts fighting Venom too. Ashley's still going, Eddie, don't let it take over your mind, it will destroy you.
Destroy?
Not kill, destroy, because this is a kid's show.
So that you can be drained.
But eventually, Venom just takes Ashley and swings out the building. Spider-Man's like, thanks, Iron Man. And Iron Man's like, that's okay, Spider-Man. And then they follow them. Okay, now cut back to the magic dungeon. Carnage is draining himself into this urn. Once this urn is full, then Dormammu can come from his dimension into this dimension. Baron Mordo says they only need a few more lives for this transfer to happen. We then cut back to Iron Man and Spider-Man looking over the city for Venom and Ashley. And now we've reached that part of the episode where a lot of plot needs to happen in a very short amount of time, time to get the story from here to the third act in less than like 2 minutes. So, Madam Web appears again and just speedruns plot and exposition. They literally say in the episode, we are transcending time and space. Okay, first it shows us Ashley and Venom at a castle, I don't know. And basically Venom saying, when I tried to spare Spider-Man, the symbiote was burning my mind. It wants me to be evil so bad, but I'm trying to fight it for you, Ashley. Ashley's like, okay, we gotta get this thing separated from you. Okay, transcend space and time. Woo! They go to Dr. Connor's lab and ask him if this can be done. He says yes. Great. Transcend space and time. They literally take the symbiote off in like 5 seconds. And then Eddie and Ashley kiss. What the hell? They got together? That's crazy. That's gotta be violating some patient-doctor practice. I don't know, but it seemed problematic. But honestly, I'm happy for my boy. Eddie had a redemption arc, and I think that is actually pretty cool. Okay, but transcend space and time one more time. We cut to Carnage taking this lady hostage. She was one of the police officers present when they first arrested him. Spider-Man swings over there to rescue her. Okay, no more Madam Web, finally. Why are those her legs? I don't like that. Spider-Man starts to fight Carnage, allowing the police officer to call Ashley to come help because Cletus Cassidy is also her patient. First off, I think there has to be someone else who can help. And second off, I don't even think this is true. I'm pretty sure Ashley's never even said anything to him. We come back to Spider-Man. He keeps on fighting Carnage. The police lady gets her life force sucked out. My boy, Christopher Daniel Barnes, brings back the symbiote voice. He knows how to get intense. But then Spider-Man starts to get his life force sucked. But just before this can finish, Ashley pulls up in a taxi and just gets like destroyed like instantly. Like she's gone. She barely got out of the car and she's dead now. This is incredibly stupid. Why would you steal her life force and not Spider-Man? He's literally the only person who can stop you. Carnage said she
Deserves this more than him.
she didn't really do anything to you. Baron Mordo shows up and is like, yes, that's the last life force we need. I must get you back to the magic dungeon quickly. And then teleports Carnage. He can teleport people? Half your plan from earlier just became redundant. This show is going off the rails, and that's because it has to do like 28 plot points before the end of the episodes, which is coming up in like 6 minutes. This show was already insane, but it's just ignoring all logic now. It's just doing whatever it wants. Why didn't you just teleport into Stark Enterprises earlier to steal the probe at night or something? Why didn't you just teleport a bunch of civilians into a jail cell and steal their life force like that? Spider-Man's like, oh god, how am I gonna find them now? But then he remembers what Madam Web said.
A warrior keeps his friends close and his enemies close.
Spider-Man realizes he has to get Venom to show him where the magical dungeon is. Spider-Man and Iron Man goes to Dr. Connor's lab to confront Eddie. They're like, Eddie, where's the magical dungeon? He's like, you want to fight Carnage, Dormammu, and Baron Mordo? You don't stand a chance. I gotta help as Venom. Iron Man's like, no, last thing we need is to deal with that monster again. Spider-Man's like, we're wasting time. Just tell us where the dungeon is. Which is also exactly what the writers are saying in this moment, I think. They don't want to spend any time on these emotional moments. Eddie's like, okay, you win. And he just runs straight into the tank, releasing the symbiote onto him again. It's really funny, actually. Watch this.
You win.
Look how fast he runs. Pretty much instantly, Venom's like, we're back! And then Spider-Man, completely unbothered by this, is like, Eddie, come on, you gotta remember Ashley. And this works. I think Eddie's at a point now where he can pretty much control Venom, which is incredibly useful and convenient for this situation. I honestly don't want to deal with it anymore either, so I'm fine with it. Also, Eddie was cured from Venom for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's insane. We then cut back to the magical dungeon again. Carnage has just finished transferring all of the life force into the magical urn, and Baron Mordo has just set up the interdimensional portal.
Hey, sorry to drop in without an invitation.
So everyone starts fighting. Mordo and Iron Man are shooting lasers into each other like cartoon characters do all the time. I'm like, Mordo, maybe just teleport everyone out of here, but no, he doesn't do that. He gets knocked out by Iron Man. Venom and Carnage start fighting. Venom's like, where is she? Where's Ashley? And Carnage is like... Venom's like,
Ashley.
Again, so gentle. Venom goes to check on her, and Carnage is sneaking up behind them, but then Baron Mordo's like, Carnage, release the contents of the urn into the portal to release Dormammu. He could have teleported himself over there because he can do that, but I guess he didn't want to. Carnage goes to do it. He says, do your stuff, and throws the urn into the portal. Dormammu finally comes out of the portal, and he's just a guy. I thought he was meant to be huge. Spider-Man gets Iron Man and Venom and says, you guys think you can hold everyone off for a little bit? I have an idea. And Spider-Man runs to the portal to do some computer stuff. He somehow reverses the effects of the portal, pulling everything in. Dormammu instantly gets sucked back in. He's holding onto the edges like this. I don't know if you can really do that with portals, but he's managing somehow. Spider-Man also gets all the souls to come out of the portal and back to their respective people. Again, I don't know how he's done that, but he has. I guess this portal has a magic setting. There should be no correlation between these two things. So Ashley gets her soul back. The policewoman gets her soul back. All the civilians get their souls back, which is nice. Very good, Spider-Man. You've done it again. Eddie goes to check on Ashley. He gets shot in the back by a laser. Ashley's like, oh, Eddie, you put Venom back on to save me. Eddie's like, yeah, I think I'm turning into a monster again. So then she's like, oh, Eddie, don't leave me. The emotional stakes are high. And here's where things are getting insane. The staging is insane. Like, I don't know how big this cave is. I don't know where any of the characters are at one time. Everyone's moving so fast. Spider-Man manages to fully suck Dormammu back into the portal, of course. Iron Man says to Spider-Man, shut off the portal. But then Spider-Man's like, no, actually, Dormammu's created some kind of bond between himself and Carnage. So Iron Man's like, okay, we'll send them both through. They somehow push him in, but then he grabs Ashley on the way. Venom's like, Ashley! And tackles Carnage. The two of them get sucked through into the portal, leaving Ashley safe and sound. The portal then closes, and all is well. Baron Mordo just runs off. I guess he's still chilling. Iron Man straight up bashes the portal to just destroy it. Spider-Man's like, hey, that belonged to Stark Enterprises. And then Iron Man's like, if Stark has a problem, he can take it up with me. Ha ha ha, very funny. Spider-Man takes Ashley back home, and she says,
he couldn't bear to live as a monster in a world of men. Perhaps what's left of Eddie will find peace in that other strange world he's in now.
Spider-Man's like, okay. He swings off. Spider-Man starts to reflect, thinking, I can't believe Eddie Brock. Venom turned out to be my greatest enemy. Wait, greatest ally. And then the episode ends. But not before a quick visit from Madam Web, setting up something else in a future episode, but that's not relevant to us right now. Jesus Christ. This show, it's insane. If you couldn't gather by now, Spider-Man 1994's biggest issue is how fast it is. It has some great and fun ideas, but they're all crammed together way too tight. I think if this arc was even 6 episodes instead of 5, it would have helped majorly. But it probably needs more like 7. I think this movie also had way too many characters, probably just to sell extra toys. Avi Arad is credited as producer after all. Like, just make War Machine Iron Man the whole time to give some extra development to him. Instead of Rhino at the start, make it only the Shocker or vice versa. Get rid of Dormammu as a character. I think Baron Mordo could have easily said everything Dormammu did, and I think Dormammu's eventual reveal would have been way more cool and had a lot more suspense put into it if he was never shown. Also, lastly, remove the Kingpin storyline entirely. It gets abandoned anyways. As for what I do like, all the visuals and voice performances are great, of course.
You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
I love the 90s aesthetic so much. I like that the whole city was turned against Spider-Man while he was going through a symbiote arc, even though I think they probably could have done more with this. I like that Venom had a character arc, even though it was rushed. And I really like Spider-Man as a character. I wanted more of him in these last 2 episodes, but again, I get why there wasn't. There really wasn't enough time. Anyways, this was fun. Subscribe, please. All right, see ya.